phosphatidylsodiol. But then 125, it undergoes another hydroxylation step. The 125-dihydroxyvitamin D, also known as calcitriol, that's the most potent form of vitamin D. And we know that that form of vitamin D has just a whole variety of biological effects. There are nuclear receptors for vitamin D in over 30 different cell types in the body, which to me is remarkable.
So how do we get it? Are you saying we do get it from vitamin D3 and it goes through all these conversions?
Yeah, there are a couple of things.
Yeah.
One is sunlight, ultraviolet light, ultraviolet B, B as in bear. That spectrum will activate vitamin D in the skin. But then what happens is the vitamin D that's activated in the skin needs to go to the liver. That's the first step where it's metabolized into the next, I'd say, form of vitamin D. And then it goes to the kidney, where it is further metabolized. Technically speaking, it undergoes hydroxylation to form the 125-dihydroxy form of vitamin D. And that's the form that's most potent, most active in the body, and the form that's, we believe, responsible for the vast variety of beneficial effects in the body.
Wow. Are you a big proponent of green tea extract?
Green tea has some wonderful benefits. Great cell culture study data in a whole variety of different areas, helping to support healthy cell growth and maturation. Green tea also has wonderful effects on the lining of the gastrointestinal tract. There are some great studies, and we've talked about many of these over the years. Green tea, I personally ingest a fair amount of green tea. I love green tea. I like coffee too, but I think that green tea as a beverage has more health benefits. A lot of people aren't aware that green tea also contains an amino acid called L-theanine, and it's probably one of the reasons why, as opposed to drinking coffee, when you drink tea, although it does help to promote alertness through caffeine, it tends to also have a balancing effect, and it's probably through L-theanine, which again is an amino acid, and it tends to have a calming effect on the central nervous system.
I interviewed Michael Colgan, Dr. Michael Colgan, a few years back for television, and he's a big proponent of whey protein and biologically available whey protein. And I was wondering at the Life Extension Foundation what your take on whey protein is.
Yeah, whey protein, we know that it has a variety of beneficial effects on the immune system. Many people are not aware that there are constituents in whey protein, a high-quality whey protein isolate, and one of the naturally occurring peptides is something called an ACE inhibitor. What's an ACE inhibitor? ACE stands for ACE, angiotensin converting enzyme. And interestingly enough, ACE inhibitors have nice effects on blood pressure. And the reason I mention this is because there are many studies showing beneficial effects on dairy products, but whey in particular, whey protein, on people with their blood pressure. And the reason for that is because of the presence in whey of naturally occurring ACE inhibitors. Whey, I'm sure Dr. Colgan also talked about whey's effects on the immune system. One thing we know, too, as we get older, our bodies tend to not hold on to as much muscle mass as really we need. It's a phenomenon called sarcopenia. There are many factors responsible for it. One is hormonal, but we also know that having a good protein supplement like whey protein can go a long ways to supporting protein metabolism in the body. So whey is terrific for a whole variety of areas. I mean, I take whey protein, I take actually our product, which is a high-quality whey protein product. I find it's very important for helping to support recovery after I exercise, for example. And there's a lot of great data showing that whey protein is an easily digested, biologically high bioavailable protein that is wonderful for recovery after exercise.
Do you eat a lot of protein, and do you advocate eating a lot of protein from meat sources or fish sources?
I think it's important to have a protein-adequate diet. Too much protein, and we can talk about that a little bit, too much protein tends to have a tends to stress the kidneys a bit. If someone has pre-existing kidney disease, it's not a good idea to eat a high-protein diet. Depending upon who you want to believe, anywhere from at least 15% of the caloric intake should be from protein every day. And I would say it's probably a good thing not to exceed 25, maybe 30% at a higher level. Of course, the whole area of diet and what's the optimal macronutrient ratio, carbohydrate, protein to fat, is always so controversial. But for me personally, I typically stay within a 20 to 25% of my total daily caloric ingestion is with protein. And I like protein from vegetable sources. I think that's an underutilized, underappreciated protein source, particularly legumes. I will eat low-fat dairy. Low-fat yogurt is wonderful. It also has beneficial bacteria for your gastrointestinal tract. I love fatty fish like salmon. Why? Because the fish oils, of course, we know are so beneficial and so helpful for cardiovascular function. So my diet typically is with fish, low-fat dairy, and I also eat a fair amount of protein from vegetable sources, including legumes, basically beans.
The Life Extension Foundation also has a pharmacy now. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, we have a pharmacy on site in Fort Lauderdale. The pharmacy was really generated, or we wanted to have a pharmacy because many of our members and customers, we often heard them complain that pricing on pharmaceutical products was very high. We are very competitive in terms of our pricing, particularly with generics. And so we really offered that pharmacy as just another commitment to customer service for our members, so that a member could ask us or inquire about what supplements he or she should use to support their health. And if they did need pharmaceutical drugs for any condition, that we also had the ability to offer them that option as well. It was really for convenience, but also to highlight, too, the fact that we're very competitive in terms of our prices on generics.
Have you ever found that you've had to deal with battles, or the organization has had to deal with battles with the FDA?
Yeah, I will say since I've been here, I've really been the beneficiary of what's occurred in the past 15, 20 years ago, where our owners really battled with the FDA. The FDA shut them down at one point. And to our knowledge as an organization, Life Extension is the only organization that successfully battled back against the FDA and won. The lawsuit was dismissed. We believe passionately in freedom of information. That's what we're always going to continue to do. We want to preserve people's right of access, not only for supplements, but we talked earlier about cutting-edge treatments. We're always active in that area, and I'm very proud to be part of an organization that's so focused on the area of preserving people's freedoms, freedom of information. To me, that is fundamental as Americans, and our organization was really at the forefront of that. And we battled back and won against the FDA.
I think it's extraordinary. And I also think that part of the reason for the battle is that your paradigm and what you're doing is running in parallel and different than what the FDA is about and what the pharmaceutical industry is about as a mandate. You're about anti-aging. They're in the drug and disease business. You're in anti-aging and health, and it's different. And in a way, I could see how it would be perceived as being competitive to, or at cross purposes to what they're about. I mean, it isn't, but I could see how it was perceived that way. I was delighted to see that tryptophan is back on the market and is doing well.
Yeah, it is. That was something that, contrary to I think what a lot of people believe, tryptophan was never banned per se. There was an import restriction placed on it back in the 1990s because of some problems with a contaminated batch.
That happens with drugs too.
Oh, absolutely.
All the time.
Absolutely. And yet somehow tryptophan